evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are back from our Thanksgiving break. Welcome to the Bird and Goal podcast. Bird and Goal from the 13, that is week 13, is under wraps. I'm joined tonight by my lovely co host. Go ahead and say hello to the people.
What is up, everybody? We are back. We had a nice little break talking about this miserable team, and nothing changed there. So, ready to get into it and talk about our miserable football team.
Your mic kind of cuts in and out. I don't
Oh,
know. Um, but good evening, everybody. We were hoping to at least come in today out of our little break, out of our little bye week, if you will, talking about two wins or a win or something. But instead, I regret to inform you all that we have officially been eliminated from playoff contention, um, which I don't know if it's a record, probably not, but being eliminated from playoff contention before December is quite something. Um, we were at the Jacksonville Jaguar game. It was a little empty, not too empty, but a lot of empty seats around us. Jacksonville is a team that doesn't necessarily travel well, and at this late in the game, with kind of how the season has gone, there's a lot of disgruntled fans, and yeah, I don't blame them for not packing the stadium. And then last week, we had a chance to win in Tampa, and it just cemented the game, clock mismanagement. And here we are. What are your thoughts?
yeah. It's been 2 weeks of losing close down to the wire again. They get to overtime against Jacksonville, and you have a chance to win the game. You can't seal the deal. And then this past week against Tampa Bay, you have the ball with 2.5 minutes and a timeout, and all you need is a field goal to tie it to go to overtime, and you can't get it done. So it's another 3-4 point loss by this Cardinal team that's been the story of the year.
Yep. And at this point, you are more so looking forward to the draft pick. So, a win would just kind of be nice morale booster for everybody who seems to, the fans seem to be fatigued with this season, kind of wanting it to get over with. That's kind of how I feel. Um, Unfortunately, you go into your season with high expectations, and I thought we had a lot of talk about this year. I thought we'd talk about a lot more wins, but here I am finding it hard to talk week to week about yet another win, yet another loss, another close loss, and it's just kind of the same old problems with the common denominator being coaching in a horrendous offensive line.
Yeah, the regression in the offensive line and the injuries in the running back room have definitely changed the course of this season. That started out optimistic for, I would say, just about everybody in the fan base. I think everyone thought, you looked at Detroit and you said, "Oh, it's a 3-year rebuild. It's a 3-year model. The third year you should contend for maybe snagging a wild card. Maybe you're in the race all the way up to the end of the season. Not getting bounced and eliminated from the playoffs before Black Friday.
Yeah, and I had talked earlier in the season, when there was still a chance that a team doesn't figure out who they are until Thanksgiving. Well, Thanksgiving has come to pass last week, and we know exactly who we are. We are a losing team, and you know, you hear the frustration in the player interviews. Um, the Darius Robinson interview, as if anyone hasn't seen it, go watch it. It kind of broke my heart. Obviously Darius hasn't really lived up to the expectations of us fans, and he is very well aware of it. He said, I'm not the player that I thought I was. Um, and, he's like, kept reiterating the fact that we've only won 3 games. He did have some nice words to say about Jonathan Gannon, which, you know, he hasn't lost the locker room, which is good. But are you also doing enough to support your players to where they don't feel the need to be that down on themselves. Because, I just hate to see players, taking it, taking it out on themselves when at the same time your head coach, your coordinators and your head coach, they just are trying to gaslight us into thinking that everything's fine.
Yeah, you definitely, and I know a lot of people have floated out there or talked about him losing the locker room, or these guys don't care, they don't want to play hard. But then you hear, Michael Wilson and Darius Robinson and what they talk about after the games, and about how it's on them. We need to execute, and we know we have to play better. It's a lot of guys who are saying a lot of things that doesn't give off the impression that they've quit on Jonathan Gannon or tuned him out. So, I know people are really quick to be like, "Oh yeah, if you lose out and you only win 3 games, you got to fire him." But that, again, it's you would have thought by year 3 we're competing, but again, it's we took a week off and we're coming back, and we're coming back to two losses by less than 1 touchdown total. It's yes, against the Seahawks and the 49ers, they got the doors blown off. But again, this is a team that's outside of 2 losses, it is in every single game. And I get it, it never, you don't want to be like, oh, moral victories, but there I'd rather be in the game with a shot to win it with the ball in the hand driving down the field instead of, Keldon Slovis is warming up and playing, the last 6 minutes of a game.
Yeah, you're right. No, the positive is nobody looks disengaged. Um, it's just frustrating. It would be frustrating to me as a player to, say I need to be better, and then my head coach is doing an interview saying that everything's fine, and no, I'm not making changes, and no, I love these absurd play calls that were unnecessary when you have opportunities to go out and get a win. Because the players, they don't care about draft position. I don't necessarily think coaches care a whole lot, considering this is also their jobs on the line. Um, but it's just really sad to see, you know, the morale seems low, but yet, I don't think it's a lost the locker room type situation. And you also have a lot of high character guys in the locker room. You have a lot of young guys that, don't really have a lot, like a leg to stand on as far as like being criticizing your coaches or just kind of throwing shade a little bit. But overall, I just don't think that we have what it takes to get rid of this losing culture that we have. I don't think Jonathan Gannon can get rid of the losing culture.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough just because I think they're set. Maybe they come back next year with new offensive coordinators or offensive coaches on that side of the ball. But I think the rest of, the head coach and the defensive side, you won't see any moves. It is frustrating, but also like the defense feels to be, making stops here or there. Against Tampa Bay, that's a pretty good offense. It's a pretty, high powered, want to score a lot of points offense. And they didn't kick a field goal or score points until like 8 minutes left in the second quarter. You're not down 3 scores immediately. So it's just, unfortunately, the defense isn't built to, they're not going to stop the offense 14 times. They're not getting 14 stops. You got to have an offense that can score some more points, move the ball. They can't go. What was it? They went 3 for 8 on third down this past week, and they were 0 for 2 on fourth down. So like you're just not getting. You're not continuing drives. You're not keeping drives alive. You're not giving the D a breather, and the other team finally just wears you down at the end of the game.
Yeah, I think these past couple weeks, the defense has played pretty well. And given, we're ravaged with injury. In that Jacksonville game, you had that the thick six with Walter Nolan, was staying with his block and, somehow ends up with the ball in his hand. But kind of, gets tackled low, flips into the end zone. So that's where we lost Walter Nolan. But in that Jacksonville game, I believe we had 3 turnovers, and yet we couldn't capitalize on offense. So it's frustrating when your defense goes out there, gives you 3 turnovers, and you still lose. And then, we kind of kept the Tampa Bay offense at bay for the most part in this game. And yeah, up until the very end, your defense can only get you so far if your offense isn't giving you any type of help. And it doesn't help too. In this game, we also had 3 turnovers. Jacobus had 2 interceptions and then a Bam Knight fumble. And yeah, just lots of pressure. We're familiar with Todd Bowles, so that he's going to be blitzing, and we just had no answer for that. Everybody outside of Paris Johnson, got worked. They do say Adams had a good game, which the bar's low for Isaiah.
Yeah, the bar is on the floor.
Yeah. So yeah, it just comes down to, can this offense sustain drives? But we're kind of not worried about winning at this point, but it would be nice to at least have a more, I guess, balanced team and come up with a close loss. I don't know. I'm just at a loss for words at this point. But I do want to say hello. We've got some lovely folks in the chat. I'm not ignoring you guys. I just have a lot on my mind and I have to hurry up and rapid fire to get myself in a rhythm. So what's going on, Silver Wolf? Classy Nasty is in the house. Of course, as always, Grandizer showing us some love, showing us where you can find us. We also have a Discord that I should probably be more active in, but life's crazy. Nick says tank for Mendoza. I would not mind Mendoza. That'll be an interesting process or a prospect come draft time. Lorenzo says, what OC are you guys looking to replace Drew? He's gone. Now, Drew is on the last year of his contract. So if there's any turnover this offseason, it could possibly be Drew. I just don't know who would be a good offensive coordinator. Because I would like a Mike McDaniels, but I don't think the Dolphins are going to fire him. Is there any prospect that intrigues you?
Yeah, the two names that I think will be the hottest come this cycle is going to be Clint Kubiak, the Seattle offensive coordinator, as well as Mike Kafka, the Giants. I think he's the interim head coach right now with them firing Dable. But those are definitely two names that I think Cardinal fans should look into and get familiar with this coming April or off season, I guess. Yeah, Clint Kubiak, you've seen what the Seattle offense has looked like this year. It seems like every guy is scoring touchdowns for them. They've got 2 running backs. Against us, right? They had their 3rd string running back scoring touchdowns. So I think that's a guy who, they have no issue with getting JSN and their featured players the ball. So I think that would be one big positive if, you can bring him in. If you do that, though, it's a lateral move. So, do you want to be the offensive coordinator for the potential NFC West champion Seattle Seahawks, or do you want to go down south to Arizona and play, coach for one of the worst teams in the league? It's not a promotion. He's not going to come in and be the head coach. So maybe that's where he says no, thank you. So that's when you maybe have to look inside to the wide receiver coach. Who's that gentleman?
You look that up, but you make a pretty good point there with how Seattle has found a way to give everybody the ball, because I feel like this is what we struggle with the most is you've got your number 4 overall draft pick Marvin Harrison, who at the beginning of the year we've said it's egregious that he's seeing 6 targets a game. He goes down with injury. You've got the emergence of Michael Wilson, who never saw the ball. And now that Marv is back in action, or was back in action this past week, Michael Wilson had 3 targets. Marv did have a pretty decent game. I think he might be hurt beyond the appendectomy. There was some issues with the heel, so we'll see if he suits up on Sunday. Of course, you've got Trey McBride, best tight end in the league, outside of maybe Rock Bowers, if you want to argue that. But yeah, there is some mouths to feed in this offense. So if we can find an offensive coordinator that can find a balance and kind of spread the ball around a little bit, I'm all for it. Lorenzo did ask, oh, made it go away. What about QB? Kyler, JB, or draft for next year? I think we have seen the last of Kyler Murray. They have not activated his practice window. I don't think they're going to. There's really no point in this late in the game. Um, he's more valuable if you don't play him, if you're going to get any kind of draft compensation for him. Plus, I don't think he wants to. You know, they've kind of it's been a weird situation with Kyler's injury. Like, yes, he is injured. To what extent, we don't know because Gannon likes to keep things hush hush. Um, he's unavailable to the media, so he hasn't talked to anybody. And we had that weird week after the bye. Going into Monday Night Football, it's like, oh, he's gearing up to play. Oh, he's going to have a limited role. He's going to be the backup quarterback or the emergency quarterback, and
Yeah.
then after the fact goes on the IR. So we don't. I don't think Kyler is going to come back. And to be honest, with the way this offensive line plays, it doesn't matter who's back there. It could be me. It could be the Lord Jesus himself. This offensive line is not stopping anybody for any quarterback. So if you really want, some kind of soft rebuild, you got to build up that offensive line to give any, young quarterback success. So I'm not opposed to running it back with Jacoby Brissett. He's done an okay job. Um, has definitely proven why he's a backup, but you'd have another mid-season with Jacoby, drafted a or a right tackle next year, probably get another top 10 draft pick, and then find a quarterback prospect you like.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of guys that are coming in 27 that you could look at. There's a couple of guys here. I don't think they're going to be in the position to take one of the top three guys, and I don't believe Mateer from Oklahoma or Garrett Nussmeier or Lenora Sellers. I don't think those guys are the answer. So I would almost rather the Cardinals, go back to back offensive line and really, really fix the trenches. That was the one thing when Monty came in. He made a point of emphasis on wanting to build and win in the trenches. And this year, we are not winning in the trenches. So I don't know if you go back to the drawing board and you just kind of, it's the old, it's not a rebuild, we're just retooling, and maybe you can get three starters on the offensive line and see some improvement there. I don't know. I think we're kind of just sitting here waiting. I think you signed Jacoby to a 2-year deal, so they're content with what they have in Jacoby. I think that gives them the opportunity to see how the board falls, and they don't have to panic and go get a quarterback.
The Lord Jesus himself says, I'll be honest, even I can't help your sorry old mind.
Yeah, that's real.
Real. I don't blame you, Jesus. The sociology professor says LOL at the Lord Jesus himself. I don't know who's in these comments, but that's like the highlight of doing this, and what keeps me going is just seeing what ridiculous people things people comment. Nick L says, I'm a Sooners fan. Mateer is not an NFL caliber quarterback.
Yeah, no, I don't think he would be. I'm not saying he would be. I don't think he's going to come in here and be great, but the Cardinals aren't going to be in position to draft Mendoza or Ty Simpson or Dante Moore without moving up in the draft, which means if you stay where you're at in the second round, those are the guys that are there in the second round.
Yeah.
I don't believe they should take one. I wouldn't. I would rather just punt on a quarterback in 26 and come back in 27 and look at a quarterback there.
I agree. Accelerator says we have most of the pieces for a really good team, which I agree, because on paper this should be a way better team if you given the grace of injury. But it just, like we all been saying, it really comes down to coaching. I don't think that Drew Petzing can develop a rookie quarterback in the second round next year if he still has a job. And then I will give credit to Gannon as much as I don't like him as a head coach. All signs are pointing he's still going to be here next year, so I've accepted that. But I do think that he has done a good job of developing the younger guys. Or maybe that's credit to Monty Austin for drafting guys that are more NFL ready than some other players,
Right.
Jonathan Gannon says, "Hey, Lee Jonathan Gannon himself is in the chat with us." Grandizer has a question for you, Colby. What about a QB to groom as your backup in 26?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go that route, there's a couple of guys. I like Jaden. What is it, Maevia, the USC quarterback? I think that's a guy that if you're okay with Jacoby for one more season and you don't want to, I don't believe he's going to go super early. I think you can look at him as a guy who is probably going to go in like the third round. And if the Cardinals go O-line quarterback, I think everyone would be okay with that. And then you also have the one name that I like is like a sneaky guy in the middle of the draft would be Brendan Sorsby, the Cincinnati quarterback. These are a little bit bigger guys. Sorsby is 6'3", 235, and Jaden Maevia is listed at 6'4", 230. So these are bigger bodies. They're not the 5'10" Kyler Murrays. They're bigger dudes that, if this is what the offense wants to be, then these are the quarterbacks. These are the body types that you're looking for.
Yeah, Grandizer did throw in Jaden Maevia. And Sorsby. Nick L says we had scouts at a lot of the Oregon games. I heard we like Dante Moore. I have heard that rumor as well, that we have been to at a majority of their games more than any other NFL team, I think, is what I saw.
Yeah, there are a lot of good players at Oregon. They're not just looking at Dante Moore. There are a couple of players. There are going to be a lot of Ducks drafted in April. There is a good select few that probably by the third or fourth round, you're going to see 6 or 7 Oregon Ducks drafted. Sadiq, their tight end, who is just a big wide receiver that plays tight end. That kid's good. That kid's going to be the number one tight end in the draft when he comes out this April. They've got some other guys on the defensive line, as well as Isaiah World. That name is one that Cardinal fans should kind of put in the back of their mind. He's a big dude. He's 6'8", but he plays offensive tackle. And, if the Cardinals go somewhere else in the first round, I think Isaiah World is definitely a guy that you can look at in the top of the second round that would be there for the Cardinals to go and address your right tackle position if you go elsewhere. Or if they can, if the board falls the right way and one of those 3 quarterbacks fall to them, Isaiah World could be the right tackle you take in the second round after getting a quarterback in the first.
Jonathan Gannon doesn't like me as a podcaster. Well, if you want to pull up to your local Chili's, we can duke it out. Grandizer said Emmanuel Pregnon, left guard, may be a fit for the Cards.
Yeah, that's another guy who's going to be there in probably the second round, I think.
All right. Now, as of right now, we hold the 7th pick. What right tackle are you taking?
You're taking the kid from Utah. You are taking Spencer Fano.
Yep, we had talked about that pre-show. Jumping around a little bit, we talked about injuries. There's going to be some injuries coming up this week against the Rams. I wanted to talk about Trey Benson because every time Gannon has asked about Trey Benson, it's been day-to-day, and it's been day-to-day getting there, getting close, whatever coach speak have you. For the past 4 weeks, his practice window is open, but if we don't activate him by the 10th, he will go back on IR. Odds of seeing Trey Benson, do you think we'll see him again this year?
What we got? We have a week, so I would not be surprised if you see Trey Benson. They have until a week from today. So I think if it looks close, maybe you'll see him activated Friday. If he is day to day for like a month is kind of crazy. But it's Jonathan Gannon for 3 years. He's not told us one straight answer about an injury with any single player on this roster.
Yep. So it's a shame that we will probably end the season without your running back 1 and 2. Well, we knew we were going to be out without running back 1, but do you think we take a running back at all in this upcoming draft? Obviously not with your first round.
No, you don't want to take Love. You don't want to take the running back from Notre Dame.
No.
If the Cardinals do that in the first round, I would lose my mind.
There's a few things the Cardinals can do in this draft that you would lose your mind.
Exactly. No, I definitely think in the late day 2 of the draft, late day 2, if not the 4th or 5th round, I think you could see the Cardinals draft a running back. There are definitely some names out there that'll be coming out that are intriguing. So I'm excited to see if they do go running back. I'm not sure if they will. This year they brought James Conner back because of what you didn't see out of Trey Benson last season. And so it's kind of hard to draft to replace like Monty wants to do if the guy that you draft to replace the older guy never plays. So like I don't know what I have. I can't let James Conner walk because I don't know what the dude behind him can do. You spent a 3rd round pick on Trey Benson, a top 90 pick, and we still, we're almost through 2 seasons. And I don't think anybody knows what we have in Trey Benson.
I would agree. And then Nick L says Knight has looked good. He has looked really good. Don't think he's going to be a bell cow. We'll probably find his way in the depth chart next year for sure. Michael Carter can go. Pack your bags. I like Amari DiMercato for what he offers in your pass protection. But he's had a blunder, a big blunder. Knight's had a fumble. So I don't mind entertaining the idea of getting a running back in this draft, but we will have to see. We've got people arguing in the comments. You said you don't want me, buddy. Well, I don't want you either then. A running back said that. Accelerator says give Knight. Bam Knight gives it all on every play. And I agree. He does play hard. He does run hard. But if we had a better O-line and better blocking scheme, we might have some different, thoughts on getting a running back in this draft. But who knows? Grandizer said Penn State might have 2 running backs. I think this year, power backs Kytron Allen and Nick Singleton.
Yeah, Singleton is he broke Saquon Barkley's records at Penn State. He is the all-time leading rusher and total touchdowns for Penn State football. That's a guy I think who is probably going to go in the middle of the 4th round. He's kind of got a little bit of a James Conner build at 6 foot 225. So maybe that's a guy. He can also pardon me. He can also catch the ball. So maybe that is the guy because now you're looking for the James Conner replacement now, right? Everyone knows that like
your power back.
You can live with Trey Benson as the complement back, but we've not yet seen if he can be the back. So you're looking for that guy who's you're replacing it with you're looking for the big running back. We're not looking for the 5'8" guy who is the next Darren Sproles. We're not looking at that. We're looking for a big dude who can carry the rock 15 times, catch the ball 3 or 4 times. And if that's what this Cardinal offense wants to do next year, as it has the last 3 years, that's a name I would also kind of bookmark and put away in the back of my head.
Yeah, so to answer your question, Grandizer, I would agree that we are looking for that power back, that James Conner replacement. Somebody that can get you those short yardage goal line touchdowns. Nick says maybe we sign Brees Hall in the off season.
You could do that.
That's an option. Is there another position that you are on the wish list for this coming draft? I know you had mentioned to our
Yes.
PCR family member Blake safety.
Yeah, I was going to get really close to the mic and say it really softly, but yes, the Cardinals need a safety. We are, Father Time is undefeated, and I think he is right on the heels of Buda Baker.
I would
So
have to agree.
I think with that, you have to look at getting one. We all love Rabbit. Keaton Crawford is a 7th-round pick, so let's not just go handing him the keys to the defense. I've liked what I've seen out of Keaton Crawford, but
he's shown flashes for sure.
Yeah, I just don't think he's ready to be a every snap safety next to Rabbit. So I would say the Cardinals need to look at offensive line, safety, and a running back.
Linebacker?
You could go linebacker, but with the 4-2-5, you don't see a lot of linebackers. And if you like Cody Simons, you can always sign a guy like Akeem Davis Gaithers again next offseason to play off ball.
Nick L says Jalen Thompson can go as well. He's kind of, as soon as he got paid, he hasn't quite lived up to the contract. He's had some great moments. He actually had what I thought was a pretty decent game against Tampa Bay. But I don't think I would miss him all that much.
Yeah. No, I think you also have to look at it from a roster construction point of view. The 2 highest cap hits on the team for the Cardinals this season are Jalen Thompson and Buda Baker. In a league that doesn't pay safeties, a lot of safeties like that, we're paying 2. So I think you've got to move on from one of them this season, if not both of them.
Yeah, I would agree. Let's see. Going through these comments, making sure I get people that are just jumping in. Michael Evans. To be honest, this is useless, gutless organization. Hasn't done anything in 40 years. Bidwell doesn't care about the fans or winning, only money. Send them to Utah. Well, I don't want to drive to Utah to go watch my team. And I know you don't because you don't miss games. You are there every home game.
Yeah, that's a lot of mileage. Driving over to Glendale is not that bad. If I got to drive all the way up to Salt Lake City every Sunday, it's going to put some miles on my car.
Yeah, but it does suck when you don't feel like your owner cares. And I don't disagree. I think that we're kind of a soft organization that we've made it a very nice environment for opposing fans, and that's kind of what Bidwell has been doing to the stadium. You've got your fancy casitas that are, you're paying $30,000 to watch a game in the living room in the end zone. You've got your field level cushy recliners that you can't see a thing. You've got your very narrow cushion seats on the opposing side that are expensive that you've kicked season ticket holders out of that area just to have. And you've raised prices every season for the past, 3 years now that we've seen increases? More than that?
Yeah, at least the last 3.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2. I'm not sure. Looking at the cap situation real quick, since we touched on the safeties, Jalen Thompson's contract's done after this year.
Oh,
he has a voided year in 2026. So the Cardinals are going to need a safety, as well as maybe you look at cap casualty cutting Buda Baker this next summer. Because that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Unfortunately, to try to salvage because we have a lot of we have a good young core that, can possibly take a next step, but you're getting dangerously close to, we got to start giving out contracts. I think the next guy up to get a big payday is probably going to be Paris Johnson.
Yep.
Which, to answer your question, Grandizer, he wants to know if we're going to do a future stream, cards, sign, or walk with potential card free agents. Maybe we can save that for like the end of the year once everything's all said and done. Or if we are having absolutely nothing to talk about in week 18, week 18 topic. Um, but yeah, I have been meaning to look at who's going to be a free agent and who's worth keeping around. Because yeah, we're gonna run into the problem of some guys are gonna want to get paid. We kind of talked about it a little bit this week that Michael Wilson will probably demand a handsome payday, given that he's shown that he can be a true wide receiver two, possibly a one on a desperate team. So I don't think we'll have it in us to pay him.
Yeah, no, I think we have seen if they don't move on from Drew Pensing, and I tweeted about it. I said Drew Pensing's offense isn't designed to sustain three pass catchers. And we've seen now with the last little 2 week stint, the little Linsanity run that Michael Wilson had, that he can do it. Mm-hmm. And now 31 other teams in the NFL also saw that he can do it. So someone's going to give him a little bit of money. He's not going to get Justin Jefferson money, but he's going to get good wide receiver 2 money to come in and probably immediately contribute for a team that wants to pass the ball.
And not only has he shown that he can do it, but he's also shown that, if there's a 50-50 ball, you kind of like that matchup. He makes these crazy catches every week. It's the Michael Wilson make a regular catch impossible challenge. It's insane. So unfortunately, it'll be one of those things where, he starts showing out come contract time. Some team's going to give him money and we get to watch him go play for a different team and look good. And then every Cardinal fan is going to be punching air that we didn't sign him.
Yep.
And then you hope at that point Marvin Harrison looks like what Michael Wilson looks like right now.
Yep. Yeah, I just looked just for my curiosity. Jalen Thompson is the third highest paid safety on his cap number this year, and Budda Baker is 5th in the league. So we are paying 2 safeties top 5 money, and we can't do that. That's not how you build teams in the NFL.
Yikes. I know I haven't really looked at who's getting, obviously Kyler Murray's getting a bunch of money, but I haven't even looked at who else is getting paid handsomely on this team. So yeah, we'll see what GM Monty Ossenfort can do. I think that's going to be your true test as a GM, is to, how can you finagle the cap with all these big contracts, and also when you do start to pay guys, are you going to pay them, too much money? What's your incentives going to look like? What are the years? What are those going to look like, and how's it going to affect your team going forward? That sort of thing. Because I'm okay with the way he drafts. I liked what he did this past free agency versus, the year prior. Josh Sweat was worth every single penny. So with that, if you whiffed your draft picks, but you got Josh Sweat, I think that at least earned you another year as GM.
Yeah, Josh Sweat with 11 sacks now on the season and 4 forced fumbles. Yeah, every dollar that they spent on him has been worth it.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Walter Nolan has been hurt. I feel like if Walter played this past week against Tampa, because we were getting a lot of pressures, we just weren't getting home like we should have. But I think if Walter Nolan played, it would have helped out a lot. Funny thing, we said it on here that we didn't think BJ Ojolari was a real person. And then he the team posted a video of him with his away game essentials, and it's like, oh, he is in fact real. But I was watching the game Sunday, and he had a free hit on Baker, but Baker got the ball out fast, so unfortunately, didn't come away with the sack. But I'm thinking, who the hell's number 9? And then I'm like, oh, it's BJ. So that's a name I would like to see, live up to the hype eventually. Maybe Darius Robinson. I'm really pulling for him because I feel bad for his whole situation. Dealing with all these injuries and losing his mom last year, and just kind of not playing to what we wanted him to be. Going back up here because a couple people have asked. Nick L. And then Grandizer said we should do mock drafts. We will probably get into that closer to when the new league year starts. When we go into free agency, that'll kind of determine what positions of need we're gonna want in a draft. And then I could really do my homework because I don't pay too close attention to college football to have all these prospects in mind, like Colby. Besides Big Citrus,
Yeah.
Big Citrus. That's on my wish list, but I don't think we can get Big Citrus.
We love Big Citrus in this household.
What's his first name?
That is, where is it at? Dominique Orange from Iowa State.
Mm-hmm. We watched them play ASU, and he was all over the place. So I'm like, oh, we need Big Citrus on this team. So yeah, we'll probably take a break after the season's over. And then we'll probably reconvene. I don't know what weekly, but when things start to really ramp up with free agency, combine, draft, we will try to do a Wednesday stream. But that's looking really ahead to the future. But January is going to be a very busy time of year for me for work and my child. So I don't think you'll be seeing a lot of us after the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Shall we look ahead to the Rams?
Let's do it. We've got a few minutes left of this pod. I'm trying to keep it at 45. I am hangry.
Yeah, the Rams are right there on the heels of the rest of the teams in the playoff hunt. So we are going to and they lost to the Panthers last week. So I think we're going to get a pretty pissed off Los Angeles Rams team coming in here Sunday.
I wanted to go back way, way down. Somebody, maybe Nick, said that we should have lost to the Saints and the Panthers. And, people were saying that, that Panthers win wasn't a good win. But look where the Panthers are. Are they leading the division or have the opportunity to lead?
They're a game behind Tampa because they haven't had their bye yet somehow.
Yeah. So they're a game behind leading the division in the hunt. And that's a team that we all wrote off and thought that they were going to be horrible. So no, I wouldn't say that turned out to not be such a bad win after all, because they did cause 3 turnovers against the Rams last week. But yeah, this is definitely going to be a get right game for LA, who they have the opportunity to clinch the first seed in the NFC.
Yes. Well, not clinch, but move into the number one seed.
First seed. That's right. Sorry. Accelerator says Cardinals 97, Rams 13. It would be some very Cardinals thing to come out and win, but I say that every week and that has not yet happened, and I don't think will happen at this point. But yeah, they're probably going to beat us in the trenches, probably going to run the ball a lot. Probably be a good get right game for Stafford. Hope that you can contain Puka Nacua. And hopefully we don't turn the ball over. I don't think our run game is going to be any sort of relevant or what lack thereof run game.
Yeah. The Rams, looking at the Rams, they are 8th in the league in offense, 4th in the league in passing, but just 19th in rushing. So saying that, I'm sure Blake Corum and Kyren Williams will have a huge day against us. Mm-hmm. And, have some trouble like we did against Seattle. I expect this to also look just like that Seattle and San Fran game. I think, we talked about earlier in the show, we talked about how they've been in almost every game has been a close game, but I think I think Sunday is also going to be, like Nick said, I think it's going to be a little lopsided in the Rams' favor.
Yeah. They have a lot to play for, and we just don't have that frisky of a team to play spoiler. Accelerator says we have 9 interceptions against Stafford with the league record of 5 pick sixes.
He's saying that with his prediction of 96-13.
Oh, I see. I'm like, huh?
Yeah, the Rams definitely have a softer schedule the rest of the way. So if they're trying to pass the Bears, which they're tied with right now, they get to play us twice in Atlanta. So I think they have a little nicer path to get to the number 1 seed in the NFC. Whereas the Bears are going to have to play the Packers twice. They have a trip to San Francisco still, and they've got to play the Lions. So I think the Rams should capitalize on the softer schedule here and at least pick up 3 wins. They still have to play the Lions and Seahawks as well. So a little bit easier of a schedule for the Rams compared to the Bears. But yeah, this is a team that should be the number 1 seed in the NFC come playoff time. And I think they should easily dismiss the Cardinals Sunday.
What's your score prediction?
I think 35-10 is probably right about where it should be.
I say 37-21.
37-21. Oh, here we go.
Yep. And, looking at the rest of the schedule, the only winnable game I foresee is Atlanta. And knowing us, we'll probably drop that too. Or, given the fact that the Rams have that Atlanta pick, we beat Atlanta and they bump us in draft position.
We're going to smoke the Bengals.
No, we're not. Joe Burrow is back.
That team can't cover tight ends, and we have the best tight end in the league.
Hater. Okay. We're going to close out now, everybody. But I do want to thank everybody that's been in the chat. Like I said earlier in the show, it is kind of getting hard to talk about the Cardinals because we're not good, and it's just been the same consistent problems over and over and over and over again. So I like engaging with you all more. So thank you for your questions and your just overall thoughts. I appreciate you all for keeping the conversation going. And, really, this is what kind of drives me from this point forward is just getting to interact with you lovely people. But this has been another episode of the Bird and Goal podcast. My name is Jackie. You can follow me on Twitter at jsandiego. That's with 2 O's.
And my name is Colby. You can follow me on Twitter at BrownC74, as well as giving the podcast a follow at Bird and Goal.
And we